Soy un vikingo y solo sé conquistar, destrozar, aniquilar. Cojo enfermedades de transmisión sexual. Lo que más me gusta es violar. Bebe cerveza, hierba y ancianos, porque me gusta verlos correr en llamas.
Jagas punks och jag gillar altura, superslows och jag vill dansa sista dansen med dig. Vi är bäst när vi åker i Vepavaturnen och ingen annan jävel ska bråka med oss.
And we're on the air. We're live. Coming at you from Kenner, Louisiana. Hello and welcome to DaHoShow. I'm your host, El Master Hoss. And if you're wondering what this show is going to be all about, it's going to be about everything or nothing at all. Actually, everything, anything you can think about. I'm gonna have on this show. So the first thing we want to do is introduce you to myself. Let me see, what are we doing now? We're gonna do. Oh well. Oh well. Let me see, just a minute. We got technical difficulties here. I didn't rehearse enough. Alright, let's start with the show. I was born in Honduras, in this hospital here, on December 11th, 1957 at 11:59 p.m. No, a.m. Damn, I should have rehearsed. Oh well. And in the country of Honduras. Let me see, what else did I do? And in the country of Honduras, this is the house I lived in. It was the family house. We no longer own it. It was a two-story affair. We lived in the top floor, and on the bottom there was three apartments that we rented out. The one on the corner there, that was also a photo studio, with the apartment over here on this side. And this is a street in La Ceiba, Honduras, where I was born. This is circa 2004. So, and by the way, this is concrete streets. There's no asphalt streets in Honduras, and it's hot. This is the airport in Honduras. This up here, this right here, is called Pico Bonito. That's a beautiful kiss in English. Let's see. This is my dad and me and the family dog. This is me at I think it's about 2 years old. And these are some of my brothers. I'm missing one brother there, the oldest one. This is me right here. This is my second oldest brother, his name is William. We called him Billy. This one here is Francisco. We called him Francisco. And this is Charles. Charlie, we called him Charlie. This is in the house. As you can see, it was a totally wooden house here. And this is my tia Toita, my aunt Toita, Victoria. We called her Toya, or Toita. And let me see, this is her brother, and his name is Paco, amazingly enough. His name, so we call him Tio Paco. This is my oldest sister. Yeah, my oldest sister and her husband. His name is Memo. I believe his name is Memo. It might be Herman, but we always called him Memo, so I never really knew what name he had. Her name is Eda, E-D-A, and this is them in the early 1960s. Yeah, early 1960s when they moved here after they got married. Moved to New Orleans, by the way. This is my mother and her no, this is after she was married. Yeah. She must have been like in the early 20s by then. This is the brother that I told you was in the picture before. I never met him. Well, I met him once. And the reason was when I was born, he moved to Spain, Barcelona, to study medicine, and became a doctor, and he stayed there all his life. He died recently, a few years back. His name is what is his name? Wait a minute, I know his name. Roberto, yeah. His name is Roberto. He's named after my father, or our father. Anyway, he lived in Spain all his life in Barcelona. He got married twice and had a total of 8 kids with his second wife. This is me when when we moved when we moved from Honduras to La Ceiba, from Honduras to New Orleans, and I became an immigrant, first generation. That little scar right here is barely able to see. Damn, I forgot my microphone. Anyway, that's a scar that I got from an injury about 2 years before that. It was one of my brothers, Billy. He had this pipe inside of this pipe, and he blew the pipe out, and it hit me right on the eye, knocked me out for a couple of hours, but I survived. And let me see, who's next? There's Francisco. That's when we came here to the States to become, immigrants. This is Billy, at age 5, and that was his birthday then. This is him growing up. He's like about in his teens. I think he's about 17 or 18. I'm not exactly sure. Let me see. This is me later on in 3rd grade. And see, there's a scar right there. Right there. And this is the back of the house, in the backyard of the house where we first moved in. We lived in what is called in New Orleans a shotgun house. It's basically a building with rooms one right after the other. There's no rooms to the sides. It's the living room, and then there's like a dining room, and then there's a bedroom, and then there's a bathroom, then there's another bedroom, then there's a kitchen, then there's the back laundry area, and then the backyard, which is right here. This little black cat right here, my father found him on the wharves. He used to be a merchant marine, and he worked for the Standard Fruit Company in New Orleans. And he found this little cat on the wharves one day and brought him home. This little dog here, we got him in Honduras and brought him over with us. His name was Pinto, like pinto beans. This is a niece of mine. I think she's the oldest. No, yeah, she's probably the oldest niece. Yeah, that's her right there at about age 4 or 3. And this is our next door neighbor that lived on the street there. Again, this is William on his 2nd marriage. When he got married again. This is Chale and his wife Lydia. And then there's Cuco. Yeah, that's what we call him, Cuco. No wonder it's not Cuco like in like cuckoo in English. It's Cuco. I don't know where we got that name from. Never asked anybody, but yeah, that's what we would call him, Cuco. And let me see. This is my second oldest sister, right there. Her name is Cosette, and her husband, unfortunately. And let me see. And there's Ada and Memo again. This is circa. I think this was like the late '90s, maybe 1998 or so. This is Francisco with his second wife in Florida, and this is my mother on her. I don't know if that's her wedding day. I forget what it was. I think it was just in Honduras. For a while there was this fad about turning photographs into paintings and charcoal etchings and stuff. And this is one that she got when she was young. Here's my father. Like I said, he was a merchant marine during World War II and after World War II. And that's him in his uniform. This is my aunt. My grandmother on my father's side. Don't know her name. Nobody's ever told me her name. And if they have, I've forgotten it. Let me see. This is me, and this is Einstein. This is a dog that I got when I was in my 30s. Yeah. I got him as a puppy, and I kept him. I had him for like about 8 years, 9 years. These are the last surviving members of my family. Myself, my brother Chale, my brother Francisco, and my sister Cosette. She's in late 70s, early 70s, late 60s, early 60s. Let's see, early 60s, late 60s, late 70s, no, early 70s, and late 70s. I should have rehearsed this. This is another nephew of mine. I think he's my second oldest nephew. His name is Herman, and it's spelled with a G. So it's not pronounced German. It's pronounced Herman. In Spanish, the G has both a soft G sound and a hard G sound. And the soft G sound is an H. I don't know why. That's just the way it is. This is Chale Jr. So he's Chale's son. That's him at about 2 or 3. I think he's like 3 years older. Again, my oldest niece, Julia Selena. And this is my mother when she visited Spain. Many times she visited Spain, and that's Cuco's second wife. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of their 8 children. When this picture was taken, she still had 2 more. Actually, you can see she's pregnant with the 7th one, and she eventually had an 8th one. I don't know any other names. Let me see. This is my cousin on my mother's side. Her name is Victoria. She's a teacher, or she was a teacher in La Ceiba, but she moved last year. Yeah, last year she moved to Spain, to Barcelona. And this is another cousin of mine on my mother's side. His name is Nulfito. Well, we call him Nulfito. His name is Arnulfo Rivera. He's kind of like a jack of all trades. He mainly does radio in La Ceiba, but he does a lot of different things. That's their mother, Eloina, and she worked for the government. She worked in the Cabildo in La Ceiba. All you who don't know what a Cabildo is, it's City Hall. This is me in 2004 when I visited Honduras on a 3-week vacation, and I went all over the place. This Victoria, that's her daughter. What's her daughter? It's not Vicky. It's Alexandra. Yeah, Alexandra. And this, believe it or not, was the current president of Honduras when I visited Honduras that day. And the way we got to get this photograph was. There was a big old championship soccer match on Mexico or something. Anyway, it was being televised, and I was staying at the swankest hotel at the time in San Pedro Sula, and he was there to see the football game. You see right here, this guy right here, that's one of his Secret Service men, his bodyguards. That guy right there. And these people over here, I don't know who they are. But that's the president of Honduras in 2004. And let me see. This is a picture of my mother with her grandkids, all her grandkids. This is Charlie Jr. This is Carla. This is Sean. And this is Maria. This is Julia Selena. This is Herman. And that's my sister Cassette. This is in 1990s, in the early, about 1995, somewhere around there. This is my mother and father in the backyard of a house that we lived on. Not the original house, but a different house we moved to later. We arrived in 1966, by the way. And we lived from 1966 to 1968. We lived on a street called Louisa Street, and then we moved to a street called Congress Street. And on Congress, we lived in 3 different houses. This is the second house on Congress Street. And this picture was taken about, I think it was like 2 months after my dad had gotten an operation for cancer, which he eventually died from. And there they are in happier days, happier times, or whatever. They were at Francisco's godfather's house. Yeah, that's where this picture was taken. This is Sean. He's Billy's son. He only had a daughter and a son. This is Sean at age 1.5, 2. He was born in around 1976, somewhere around there. This is my father in the third house that we lived on Congress Street with his. This is Herman. I don't know which ones is which here, but they're all his grandchildren right there. There's Julia Selena and Herman, and the 2 babies. I don't recall their names, or I don't even recognize them. This is a picture of my mom and us when it was her something odd birthday. This was at his house, Billy's house, where we took that picture. Francisco, he joined the Navy in 1970, and he graduated from fire control school. Basically, it's a computer. Fire control technicians are what the Navy calls computer technicians. I don't know why they call them fire. I guess because they use computers to, control the guns or whatever. But that's him right here. Yeah, right there. Yeah, there you go. That's him right there. In 1975, I joined the Navy. And the reason for the difference in the uniforms is because by the time I joined the Navy, the Navy had gotten rid of what they call the crackerjack uniforms, with the hat and the little suit there. And I got stuck with this suit-looking thing as a uniform. When I was discharged from the Navy in 1980 or somewhere around there, they had changed it back to the crackerjack uniforms. But I really would have loved to have the other uniform, not this ugly piece of crap. This is the first car that I ever owned that I bought. It's a Datsun B210. I forget the year, but I bought it in Guam, where they sent me after I graduated from boot camp. And in Guam, I bought cars all the time. This one, I've sold this one because the crankshaft broke on it. And a buddy of mine, he said he could fix it, so I sold him the car, and he did fix it. And I bought this car, which had no brakes whatsoever. Absolutely no brake. The only way I controlled braking with this car was with the transmission. It was a standard transmission, but in order for me to brake, sometimes I would have to just shove it into reverse, and lock the tires going backwards. But I would stop. I drove it. I didn't get killed. But that car had no brakes whatsoever. This is the last car that I owned while I was in Guam, a Volkswagen. It was in very good condition when I bought it, and it was still in very good condition when I sold it when I left the island. And the reason for that was because I bought it off of a diesel mechanic, uh, which I was also. So he took good care of it, and I took good care of it, and it was in really good condition for a Volkswagen. Really, I mean, barely any rust, and the engine ran like a charm. You know, suspension, everything. There was nothing wrong with that car. And let me see. A lot. What I mostly did in Guam was snorkel, or just go out in picnics on the beach, and it was the best 3.5 years of my life. And this is the time that I met him for the first time, Kuko. He came to visit my mom and us in 1985, I believe it was. He came over to visit. That's me right there, that handsome young rascal there. And yeah, that's the only time I met him. That I remember. He knew me as a baby, but I never knew him. I did when I met him, it was like meeting a stranger. He said, "This is your brother." I said, "Oh yeah," but yeah, that's the only time I ever saw him. Again, this is Memo and Eda and my mom. This is at their house. I think it was no, it wasn't. It wasn't Christmas. This was a dinner, and the reason I put this picture in is because of my brother right here. Uh, as you can see, he was still in the Navy at the time, and for some reason he had decided to comb his hair into an afro. Uh, this is Julisalina, Herman, Eda, mom and dad, and this is God, what was her name? I forget her name, but she was my sister's Eda's best friend. She had an awesome little Mustang, man. It was mint. It was a mint Mustang, and when she died, she still owned it. So I don't know what happened to that Mustang. This is when my tia Toita came to visit us in New Orleans from Honduras. This was in 1982, I believe. And my mom at the time lived in this apartments. They called them the Redwood Apartments. And let me see. This is me in 1992, I think. Where I had a brief stint with the local mafia there. I was a bill collector, but that only lasted for like about a couple of days. I decided to quit after that. This is my brother Francisco at his first wedding to his daughter, and her name was Catherine. Yeah, Catherine. That was her name. But they only stayed married for like about, I think it was like about 5 years they were married. This is Billy married to his first wife. They were married for approximately 12, maybe 14 years before they got divorced. That's them at their wedding right there. This is my sister Cosette. She was a nun for a brief period of time, and she went to the Dominican Republic to study. And this is a picture of her with my parents, her parents, when they came to visit her for graduation, when she graduated from being a nun. This is Billy at his wedding night. Billy was a gas. He just loved to joke about everything. Speaking in the past tense because he is dead now. Let me see. This is my best friend that I ever had. We were like twins. We liked the same things, like to do the same things. Watch the same types of movies, and we used to. One of the things he used to do was we used to take me out to what they call powwows, which is like Indian gathering places where they come together to do arts and crafts and traditional Indian things, and we would go all over Southeast and Southwest Louisiana. We would go to these powwows, but yeah, he was my best friend, and he died during Hurricane Katrina, and I still miss him. Name was Leroy. Leroy Favre. He's a distant cousin of Brett Favre, actually. This is another one of my brother's birthdays. This is all of us here. This mom, that's Cosette, that's Ada, that's Memo, that's me, that's, what was her name? Oh, God, I can't remember her name now. Josie, yeah, Josie, Catherine, Lydia, Alfredo, Chale, Billy, Francisco, and I don't know who that is. I think that was his sister. Yeah, that was probably his sister because I don't remember her. And let me see. This is Einstein when I first got him as a puppy. Yeah, he was a good dog. And then this him, that's us. We took a portrait. It was a birthday present for my mom one year. And let me see. This is in when was it? 1996. Yeah, 96 or 95. I forget when it was. I decided to move to Puerto Rico. I thought it'd be cool. It wasn't. It's a very nice place though, but it's very class oriented there. The rich are very well separated from the poor, and they let them know it. But this is a typical street in San Juan, and this is where I lived in this apartment right here. That's the front door there, and it was a one-room apartment with a bathroom, and there was a little yard there. But I lived there for like 5 months, yeah, because after 5 months I just couldn't take it anymore. Let me see. That's Einstein and me and this dog here. I forget whose name it was, but we were going out for an outing that day in this little dune buggy here that a friend of mine, an acquaintance of mine in Puerto Rico owned, and we would go out and go picnics. That's Einstein. I don't think Einstein liked Puerto Rico too much. At least he doesn't look like he does there. But that's us on the beach. And this is a recent a gathering we had together of all the siblings. That's Julia Salina. That's me. That's Alfredo, Cosette. This is Francisco's second wife right here. Her name is Jenny. That's Francisco. That's Lydia and Chala. Chala's the only one that got married once and stayed married. And her, oh yeah, well she got married to him, but they got married late in life. They were like in their 50s when they got married. And actually, this is a dinner that was put together by me after I nearly died in 20. When was it? In 2013? No, 2017. 2017? No, it was earlier before that. Yeah, no, it was 2017. Yeah, in 2017. Developed serious medical complications that I was hospitalized. The first and only time that I've been hospitalized. And I nearly died, but I recovered. Hey. And so I decided, to get everybody together to get. The only one I had to get was Francisco, because he lived in, he still does. He lives in New Mexico, so I had to get him to come on over and have get also together for dinner. I guess I got, kind of like, well, do it before, I actually die, we won't be able to do it again. This is me after Hurricane Katrina in August. I think it was August 30th, the day after or whatever. Hurricane Katrina really tore a big hole in Louisiana and the whole Gulf Coast, really. This is my car that I bought in 2001 and still own. And what I did before the hurricane, landed, I went and parked the car in between the buildings here. And as you can see here, this is the car right here. And it didn't get a single scratch. All this devastation here and not a single scratch on that car. And that's my apartment up here. I lived in this apartment right here. And as you can see, it was just devastation after devastation after devastation. It just, and this is just my apartment complex. It's a kind of like a gated apartment complex. But it uprooted trees and just smashed everything around and tore everything up. As you can see right there. Excuse me. And yeah, and I had two pictures of that. Didn't know that. Anyway, this is the front gate to the apartment, and this is the sign. See, Sun Lake. That's what it's called, Sun Lake Apartments. But this is the street right here. And it was all I was when I walked through there, the water came up to my knees, and that's basically the the front entrance. After Katrina, I decided to move to Reno, Nevada. So I kind of got everybody together one morning. Well, the people that I could get together, had breakfast with them, and there's my car. If you can see it in the background right there. And I left, and I went west, and I went through Dallas, and then after Dallas, I just kept on heading west, and just kept on going and going west. Just driving and driving and driving until I got to the Hoover Dam. And at the Hoover Dam, I kind of got out, stretched my legs, went do a little sightseeing, and then I made it to Reno, Nevada, where I lived for approximately 3.5 years. In a one bed this is an efficient. I first moved into an efficiency apartment because they didn't have any one bedrooms, but the following month I was able to get a 1-bedroom apartment. And this is my car outside my apartment, during the winter, the first winter in Reno. As you can see, it's covered in snow. The snow in Reno is cool. I like it. Because it snows and it gets all, this powder gets all covered in, everything gets covered in snow, overnight or whatever. And then within a few hours, it all starts it doesn't melt. It more like evaporates, really, because there's really no slush. Well, there's some slush, but it's very little slush, as you can see from this picture here. It snows, and then it just. The only place that the snow stays would be like on grass and on the trees. As far as the roads and the sidewalks, it's pretty much gone by noon. And again, no slush. After in 2009, when the economy took a tank, I was laid off, and so I was forced to move in with my sister at this house here in Kenner, Louisiana. There's my car right here, and that's her car. And I lived there for like about 8 years. 8 torturous years I lived there. This is her shed in her backyard, and this is the apartment where I moved in and I live in now. It's an efficiency apartment, a studio. As you can see, it's just one room, and I furnished it all, and this is where I am. This is the master cave, that I call it, and I've been living here since like June of 2017, and during this COVID epidemic here, that's where I came up with the idea of just turning it into a streaming studio. And so what I want to do with it is basically, like have interviews. I can have people over and we can, have interviews, or we can, like play video games on the TV but it's an ongoing thing that I'm going to develop, and we'll see what happens. But that is it. That is it for the show, the first DaHoShow. And so if you like, and if you like it, subscribe. And ring my bell, get notified when I will do another one. The next one I figure will be maybe tomorrow, or I don't know, sometime before Friday. I'll have the next show already. And I promise I will script it and, rehearse it and make sure I don't, like, stumble through all this all this like I did. I'm sorry, but for the for the disorganization, but it's been kind of crazy because I've had all kind of stuff that I had to deal with, and just to get where I am right now. So, let's let's end the show and see you around. All right, Frank, press the button. Frank!